Hello. I'm just going to sign my name for 3 hours. There's no false advertising in the live stream name. It's just me signing my name for 3 hours. And then I'm going to delete the video. But hi. Thanks for being here. It's time to start. I might listen to a podcast at some point. But I thought it would be interesting to try to do this in a little bit more in public. It's going to be very boring. So maybe it can be an opportunity for you to do something else or have a conversation in the comments or something. I'm not really sure what the purpose of these live streams are, except that they make me actually sit down and do the work. As you can maybe see in the background, I have a lot of things to sign today. Originally, I was going to sign 150,000 tip-in sheets for my book, The Anthropocene Reviewed, that comes out in May. But pre-orders and sales into bookstores and stuff have gone better than we had hoped, which is great news. And so I just got another 100,000 sheets in the mail, which are all the boxes that you can see behind you. So now it's 250,000 sheets, which we think should be enough. But if it takes me about 2 hours on average to do 1,000, that's 500 hours of signing total, and about 310 or 315 hours of signing that I have left, because I've already signed almost 100,000. So there's sort of like, I mean, the nice thing about it is that there's sometimes I worry like, oh, I wish I were being more efficient, about things in life, where I think like, oh man, I spent all day trying to write and I didn't write anything that was good. And with this, at least, like, the progress is extremely measurable and specific, and I don't really think there's much I can do to speed up the process in any meaningful way without making it so that my hand and arm hurt. So it's just kind of, it's like data entry. It goes as fast as it goes. But yeah, so this is I'm signing copies. I'm signing these sheets that will then be bound into copies of my new book, which is my first book of nonfiction. It's based on my podcast, The Anthropocene Reviewed, and I like signing. I don't mind it. It's good work for one thing. It's better than most of the other jobs that I've had besides writing. And it's also kind of less stressful than writing. It's really just a mindfulness practice. You're trying to do the same thing over and over again. And in that process, you discover that you can't ever do the same thing over and over again. In fact, you can't even do the same thing twice. And it just lets my mind wander. So I'm going to let my mind wander a little bit, just to set the appropriate expectations for the stream, that you don't think that I'm going to be chitter chattering the whole time. But it was very cool. Like the last time I did one of these streams, somebody made a lo-fi hip hop beats version animation of me signing, which was very cool. And then someone did an animation version of me signing, which made me very happy. So yeah, it made me think that like maybe these streams do have some value to some people, but certainly don't feel obligated to hang out if you've got other stuff to do, because this is going to be just as boring as you can imagine. I often think there that like the most interesting thing about live streams is the conversations that can happen within them, at least if they're well moderated and people are nice to each other. Like years and years ago, a decade ago, we used to do these blog TV shows. Blog TV was sort of an early competitor to what became Twitch. And we would, my brother and I would host these live streams, and we got paid to do them. And that was back when we really, we needed the money, and it was steady money. But the streams were good, and or at least at times they were. At times they were pretty low quality. But the thing that made them special was not Hank or me. It was the people in them, people watching them, connecting with each other. Like that's how Esther and all of her friends first became friends. And they're still buddies all these years later. That's the coolest thing to come out of our community, is the friendships, the points of connection, the communities within a community, like Tuataria or the Nerdfighter Discord or stuff like that. Life's Library. Life's Library, by the way, is open for subscriptions. You can go to lifeslibrarybookclub.com and sign up to become a member. We only open up for subscriptions every now and again. So if you've been wanting to join an amazing book club that has a wonderful Discord community, I encourage you to check out Life's Library. It's like everything that other Discords aren't. Sometimes I get like stuck in a pattern where I can't like get my signature back, where I do like 10 that look wrong to me. But now in saying that, I've got it back. So the ones that you can see behind me, this is like, I don't know, like 4,500 sheets maybe. Those are the ones that I should try to do today. But that's, 8 full hours still to go, or 9. And I do have other things in my life. Like I still have work stuff to do. So I don't know if I'm going to finish it all. But the problem is every day I don't meet my goal is a day that the next day is harder. So a lot of it's trying, yeah. But I'm sure there are people in comments who are like, oh, I don't need a signed copy of the book. But I get that. But I still want to do this. I understand that I don't have to do it. I understand that like I could say that I didn't want to do it and nothing bad would happen, but I feel like I made the commitment and I want to keep the commitment. And also I really like the idea of the whole first printing being signed. Like, as far as I know, that's only been done one other time with The Fault in Our Stars. And I just think it's a nice, especially since I probably won't be able to go on tour and stuff, it's just a nice way to say thank you to the people who pre-order the book. I should have put in the, every time I mess this up, I should have put in the video info how you can, dang it, how you can purchase the book. What, I'm so bad. Aggressively bad marketer. Whatever. Can I try to add it? I don't know. Maybe Rosianna. Maybe somebody. Maybe Rosianna will add it, or whatever. You can just Google Anthropocene Reviewed book, and I think the best way to order it is, I mean, if you're asking for advice, is from your local independent bookstore. A lot of local bookstores are having hard times right now. So if you're lucky enough to have a bookstore in your community, I'd encourage you to support it. Just give them a call. They're happy to talk, and tell them that the book comes out on May 18th and it's called The Anthropocene Reviewed, and they'll pre-order you a signed copy. Also, a lot of people ask if you can get a signed copy if you live outside the United States and Canada. Not to my knowledge. There's a lot of international treaties and rules around copyright that make it impossible. And I'm really sorry about that, but that's just kind of the reality of publishing right now. So if you live in the US or Canada and you pre-order a copy, it should be signed. Otherwise, I can't make any promises, unfortunately. Signing in green today because, I don't know, most of my pens are green and I like signing in green. It's my favorite Sharpie to sign with. That wasn't very good. So let's add a little spiral. See, sometimes when they're not up to my standards, I add a spiral so that hopefully the person who gets that one, instead of being like, oh, I got a bad signature, will be like, oh, I got a spiral. Also want to show you guys some of the stuff my kids have done. Hold on. All right. I gotta switch pens anyway. I've got a graveyard of dead pens over there. And then once every couple days, I pick up the graveyard. That's the stack for so far this morning. Okay. So look at some of the stuff my kids have done. They don't know. I won't lie. They don't always help. Let's see if I can edit this easily. Oh yeah, I can add a description. Oh, look at this. I'm gonna be so good at marketing. Hold on. Anthropocene Reviewed book. Yeah, that's the one. And then I go to this website and then I copy it and I paste it. Oh yes. I'm even gonna write a little description like pre-order your signed copy of the Anthropocene Reviewed book, : oh yeah, that's the business. Okay, it should be up there if you refresh. So my kids have been making some art. This is my favorite. Henry made a little guy that says hi. He likes to make little guys inside the J. And then Alice made that phenomenal, I guess, queen. Hello. There's a little fox. There's a lot of it's almost like cave paintings, abstract symbols, and I think that's a multicolored froggy. There's a flower. There's a cat person standing on top of the J. Now there's Bye Alice, boo. I think that was maybe from Halloween, but obviously there's a 99.99% chance that your pre-order will just have a J and a scribble and and my name on it, but it might have that. Another cool thing that I think we're doing that I'm very excited about is we're gonna have a review of autographed books inside all the autographed books. So that's the kind of meta tomfoolery that I am here for. So like on the end paper opposite, I don't want to ruin the whole experience of the book, but it's going to be a book that includes lots of little, I love books that have little moments of unexpected joy in them. It's almost like I have a great love of secret rooms and houses and surprise wonders uh, and follies and such. Like I'm fascinated by the architectural phenomenon of follies of buildings that exist to do nothing other than be follies. But yeah, there's going to be a bunch of things like that in the book, which and that stuff is really fun to think about. The essays themselves have been really good to work on too. Like, just feel like I guess I've learned a lot about myself through working on the book, which is not as much the case for other books that I've written, because this is really the first time that I've written about, in any kind of direct way about myself. So it's been interesting and a little intimidating, but good in a lot of ways. Oh no. Sometimes the pages stick together, which really slows things down significantly. The other thing about doing live streams is that I go faster because I don't make any room for distractions. Like, I don't think like, oh, I should check the spelling bee on my phone, or I should make sure that I didn't get an important email. And so in the end, like, I might actually be significantly faster because it encourages me to actually keep that one was really bad. I've got to do something about that. I mean, bad signature, but a great spiral. So that's something. I mean, I remember when I did this back in 2011, sometimes when I would have bad signatures, I would put them all in a pile, because like back then, you know, Sarah was working at the museum, and so she'd come home at the end of the day, and I would have this pile of bad signatures that I would show her, and I would be like, which of these do you think is acceptable, or should I just throw them all out? And she would look at them and she would be like, John, these all look the exact same as all your other signatures. Like, you're the only person who sees the difference or who cares about the difference. Nobody thinks like, oh man, I got a bad signature. They just think like it's a signature. They're all the same. Like, was it done personally by the author's hand with a pen? Yes, then it's a signature. Like, so I have to a little. It's an interesting tension, because a little bit I have to let go of the urge that I feel to have a perfect signature, but on the other hand, I have to hold on to some of it, because it's a big part of what motivates me to keep going. Is like thinking that there is some like platonic ideal of the signature that I need to achieve. So I can't totally lose quality control, or else I'll lose interest in the project. And also, like, yeah, you can't. I mean, even though it doesn't matter, and most people, of course, just want, you know, would be happy with an autographed book. And in fact, like, most people would probably be happy with an unautographed book. Yeah, I still have to. If I don't have some kind of standards, then at some point, like, my signature will just devolve into a straight line drawn across the page. And we don't want that. We want it to be at least vaguely Johnish. But yeah, people always ask me what I think about when I'm doing this, and the answer is that I think almost exclusively about signing. Like, I'm not like thinking about what the meaning of life is or my place in the universe. I'm thinking J scribble. I'm thinking about like the people that the autographs are for, and I'm thinking about where they might end up, and I'm thinking about you know, whether this batch will go to people who've pre-ordered it, or will go into a bookstore, or will go into some Costco somewhere. And I'm thinking about this. I mean, that's the great thing about a project, is, at least for me, is that when I'm doing it, I think mostly about the project. Like, when I'm kayaking, I mostly think about kayaking. When I'm gardening, I mostly think about gardening. A couple of good book and movie and podcast recommendations, if you're interested. I just reread Patti Smith's book, Just Kids, about Robert Mapplethorpe and friendship and loving somebody who dies, and New York in the 70s. Such a great book, and such a lovely evocation of, you know, the best of what an art scene can feel like, you know, the best of what making art and caring for people who make art can feel like. And on that front, I'm also simultaneously listening to a podcast about the Apology Line, which was sort of a conceptual art project in the 1980s in New York, where an artist set up a line that you could call into, like a phone number that you could call, and after, like there would be a message that said, don't leave your name, these messages will be played publicly, apologize for whatever you need to apologize for, and then there would be a beep and the people would apologize. And it was gut-wrenching often, young people conflicted about running away from abusive homes, not knowing who to apologize to, people apologizing to their spouses or partners, but then also people apologizing, or in some cases not really apologizing, for committing horrific crimes. And that kind of becomes the center of the podcast. But I'm interested in the way that people were using that technology of the phone and the recorded answering machine in the 1980s. Like when Hank and I were kids, our favorite band was They Might Be Giants, and I still love They Might Be Giants. I don't mean to situate my affection for them in the past, but in the 1980s they had a phone line called Dial a Song. This was back when calling outside your community resulted in long distance fees. Like you had to pay like 10 cents a minute to call a non-local number. So for us to call anywhere outside of Central Florida cost 10 cents a minute. But still, like once a month, we would pitch in together and call the Dial a Song line and be able to hear a new They Might Be Giants song. It was just so cool. And the feeling that you get from using an established technology in transgressive ways is such a powerful feeling. And now I think we're seeing, but it's also, it's a powerful feeling that can go powerfully wrong. The feeling of trans. By the way, thank you for. I can't read your super chats because my vision isn't good enough, but I will see them later when I. And thank you, and I will donate the money to Partners in Health Sierra Leone for our project with them. But don't feel like you need to super chat on that account, please. Like it's much more efficient just if you're super chatting to donate, it's much more efficient just to donate to PIH at pih.org. You can either donate unrestricted funds, or you can go to pih.org/Hank and John and donate specifically to the Maternal Center of Excellence. But anyway, I'm interested in, and have been since I was a kid, in the way that we, young people especially, or artists, use these sort of mainstream corporatized technologies in ways that are fun and a little transgressive. But there's great risk in that because it feels so fun that sometimes you don't pause to consider all the implications of it. Like there are things that are just unambiguously beautiful, like They Might Be Giants, Dial a Song, and then there are things that can be really harmful. It's a little bit the way I felt one of the reasons we got into YouTube was that in 2006, 2007, it felt like YouTube and YouTubers were using video that way, this well-established technology that was, almost entirely at the time, viewership was almost entirely controlled by large media corporations who decided which, TV shows and movies they would put on the air. And here was this, ragtag crew of people who were suddenly using video for an audience in a way that was completely radically different from all the previous uses of it, right? Like Ze Frank's The Show did not feel even remotely like anything that had ever been on TV. Lonely Girl 15 didn't feel even remotely like anything that had ever been on TV. Community Channel, The Hill 88, all those folks, it felt like, wow, this is nothing like TV in all the best ways. And then, of course, like to some extent, TV co-opted some of the strategies that were used by YouTubers. But it's still the case that, like, when you watch, like, there's a version of YouTube where the production quality gets so good, and there's a big crew and everything, and you watch the YouTube video and you're like, this is a little bit like TV, and I don't like it. Like, I don't really want it to be like TV. I want it to be like really good YouTube, not like slightly bad TV. And finding that line is extremely hard. I don't want to sound like I know the answer, but sometimes I watch stuff and I'm like, gosh, I wish this were like good YouTube instead of being like, second-rate television. And sometimes I watch television and I think like, gosh, this is some second-rate YouTube right here. Like, this is cringy and uncomfortable because this is the TV world trying to like do our thing, and boy, do they do it in ways that make me feel physically uncomfortable. Like, no offense to anybody who's watching, but I felt that way watching the Bridgerton after show, where David Spade was telling jokes that like he was reading off of a teleprompter that he clearly didn't understand himself. And I just was like, ugh. Right, but I'm here to recommend things, not to crap on things. Another book that I've been reading that I really, really love is Eula Biss's Having and Being Had, about capitalism and class and race and the intersections among them. It's a really interesting book, and it wrestles and wrangles with extractive capitalist systems in ways that I find really compelling. I've read some criticism of the book, and I think some of it's justified, but I've learned a lot from it and find it really fascinating, especially the parts of it that relate to art and art making and writing, and the ways that art intersects with commerce and how uncomfortable that can be for both for people who make things and for people who, look at art or buy books. It's complicated. So we end up giving a few people a lot of resources. And then the last book I will recommend is Fevers and Feuds and Diamonds by Paul Farmer, about the Ebola outbreak in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea in 2014, and the historical circumstances that allowed Ebola to become so deadly in those nations. In the media, at least in American media coverage of Ebola, it was very much treated like a death sentence. It was like this disease kills 50, or in some cases 90% of the people it infects, and there is nothing to be done about it. But in fact, that isn't true, and far fewer of the people who got adequate replenishment and rehydration therapy died. It's just that such therapy, although it is hugely effective at treating a wide variety of illnesses, wasn't widely available because of weak healthcare systems and because of this emphasis on containment over treatment, of trying to prevent the spread of the disease, which is very important, rather than also trying to treat the people who had already been infected by the disease. It's a really fascinating book. It's 500 pages long, so it's a smidge intimidating, but I have learned a tremendous amount from it. And I really recommend it. It's by one of the founders of Partners in Health. Okay. Once the stack gets this short, it's time to add to the stack. Is that going to be enough? That's probably going to be enough for a while. Okay. Okay. Gotten to that point where the paper is not coming off quickly. There we go, maybe. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Oh man, this is taking forever. Oh my goodness, this situation has to resolve at some point, or this stack is going to take me hours. There, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the place to grab. That's the place to grab the page. Okay, we're back in the game, y'all. Now I just have to improve the quality of the signatures themselves, and we'll be cooking with gas. Sometimes the signature is actually fine, like that one, but I still want to write the FTBA and make a spiral on it. I don't know why. I think I'm sure you are all looking at them and thinking, they're all fine, John. Stop being weird. But, you know, you gotta take your pleasure where you can. All right, I'm gonna answer a couple questions. I think I might, yeah, and then I think I might just listen to a podcast and keep, and it really becomes a silent live stream. But I want to at least answer a couple questions before I do that. I'm really excited. One other thing I'm really excited about the Project for Awesome, which starts a week from Friday. But if you want to make a Project for Awesome video, you need to upload it to YouTube and submit it to projectforawesome.com by next Wednesday, because we're doing things a little differently this year. So please, please make your Project for Awesome videos, and you could get tens of thousands of dollars donated to charities that you care about. So that it's going to be a lot of fun. There are great perks this year, and I'm really excited about it. I am. I don't quite know how I'm going to do the Project for Awesome while also having to sign all of those boxes full of sheets behind me. They're also behind you, I guess, in a manner of speaking. But I'm going to do it, and it'll be fun. So here we go. All right, let me answer some questions. What do we like? Joy's recovering from brain surgery and finds this very soothing. Yeah, great. Am I going to get verified on TikTok? That's a good question. Yeah. Okay. Are you going to shave soon? What's the meaning of life? And am I verified on TikTok? That's great. Those are perfect. I don't know how to answer favorite eyebrow. I don't really think of my eyebrows as separate. Am I going to get verified on TikTok? I don't know. Maybe not. We sent in the paperwork, and they were like, "We'll review this to decide whether or not you meet our criteria of noteworthiness or whatever." And that's fine. I don't care if I get verified on TikTok. I only want to not get my account deleted. I don't need to be. I don't need to be verified. In fact, I think it's kind of much funnier if my brother is verified and I'm not. I would prefer that to continue to be the case. Just I need them to not delete my account for impersonating myself, which is so it's a weird situation. But I also think they're probably just inundated with new accounts from because influencers on other platforms are always jumping on new platform bandwagons late. So I think they're inundated with people who are I need to be verified. I need my client to be verified, blah, 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 blah. And I'm I'm just a person, and I actually don't need to be verified, but I do need you to not delete my account. But yes, I have a TikTok. I don't TikTok very often. But I enjoy it when I do. Someone also asked where their Mongols t-shirt is. I don't know. I think that if that's a reference to the person who is mimicking me on TikTok, you can always email me at sparksflyup@gmail.com. But yeah, I actually don't even know if we have any more of those t-shirts. I'm way out of the loop on the status of different kinds of Crash Course merch. What's the meaning of life? Well, I mean, I think the way I look at it is that broadly speaking, there are two kinds of ways of establishing meaning, right? You either create it or you derive it. You either make it or you find it, right? So if you make it, then you're saying there is no kind of inherent meaning to human consciousness. There's no inherent order to the universe. There's no, and so we will make meaning, and maybe the meaning we will make is, as that beautiful Kurzgesagt video put it, a kind of optimistic nihilism. Maybe the meaning that we will make is believing that we are here to minimize suffering. Maybe the meaning that we will make is believing that we are here to observe and attend to the world and the universe, you know, that our one resource deep down is attention, and we are here to pay attention. And or maybe the meaning that you will make is that we are here to try to understand the universe's clockworks, to try to understand what, you know, makes us and the world tick. I think those are all very lovely and compelling meanings of life. Then there's the idea that maybe meaning is derived from some outside source, from some objective definition of meaning. So, you know, this is very common to derive meaning from, that meaning is derived from understanding the will of an omnipotent God who created the universe, and trying to honor the desires that God has for us, or that God has for the world. There are lots of other ways of deriving meaning too, right? Like, it's not only a religious phenomenon, and certainly not only a monotheistic phenomenon. You might also derive meaning from from some other higher power, you know, from believing that that the trees are overseeing our world, and we need to align ourselves with the interests of trees or whatever. It's one way of looking at the world that I am fond of. For me personally, I'm not very interested, I guess, in the question of, even though, like, I understand that that's like kind of like the two ways that people tend to frame meaning. I don't really care if like, this is why my being religious and my brother not has never been an issue of contention for us, because what Hank and I are both interested in is the meaning one either finds or makes, not whether that meaning is found or made. And so for me, the meaning is found. For me, the meaning is derived from outside of myself and outside of our species. But the meaning is to pay careful attention, to try to better understand the universe and our place in it, and to be kind to each other while there is still time, to try to lessen human suffering, and to try to reform the systems that increase suffering so that they are more just. I don't always do a good job of that. In fact, I would say I'm probably not in the top 50% of humans in terms of living out the meaning that I find in life. But I do find it quite meaningful. And I do think that consciousness is very, very weird. It's so weird that, like, we often don't think about how weird it is. But it's very weird to have consciousness, to have the ability to conceive of the infinite from within a finite self. It's very weird to have experiences of the infinite in the forms of, love and longing, and being able to imagine worlds well outside of ourselves. That's super weird. And it's really lovely. Like, it's also other things. It's also terrible. Humans are a catastrophe to many species on the earth, and to a lot of species, we have been or will be the apocalypse. We are monstrous to each other. Like, if anything, the old Roman line, homo homini lupus, that man is a wolf to man, is a little uncharitable to wolves. And like, I don't want to minimize any of that. Like, suffering is real, it's profound, and to a great extent it's caused by human choices, especially the choices of the powerful. And like, all that is horrifying, and we should be horrified by it. But I also think, I also think, like, merely dismissing consciousness and our species as monstrous is an oversimplification as well, because we are capable of immense sacrifice and compassion and care and kindness. We are capable of astonishing leaps of understanding. We're capable of massive, widespread collaboration, not just like among humans who are here now, but even collaborating with the people who were here before us, right? Like, I think about this all the time in the context of, in a couple contexts, but like in the context of the electrical grid. Like, right now this is well lit, and I'm live streaming because the electricity flows into my house. Well, almost everyone who built that electrical grid in the first place, who got electricity to this corner of Indianapolis, almost everybody who participated in that initial project of building that initial system, they're gone. But I benefit from them, and I collaborate with them every day. And this is true in millions and millions of ways. We collaborate across time and space in so many ways that we don't even think about, on a minute-by-minute basis. Because even the computer that I'm streaming from, for instance, is only possible because of insights that were made by millions of different people collaborating together over centuries and centuries. And then we're able to like collaborate extremely efficiently and straightforwardly in like our relationships with, say, texts that are hundreds of years old. The people who wrote those texts and the people who inspired them are long gone, but we're still able to collaborate with them. This to me is just like absolutely glorious, and it makes me want to like shout hallelujah from the rafters. So that's where I find meaning in life, is in collaboration, cooperation, and in trying to pay attention. And in the electrical grid. I should add that the way I think we could best honor the people, incidentally, who made the electrical grid for us would be to change that electrical grid in ways that involve less coal and other non-renewable pollutant sources of energy, and continue to push their work forward by having more renewable energy involved in our electrical grid. Like, that's the way that, to me, that's the way that we honor those people. That's the way that we can make that's the way that we can make a better world that we won't be here to see. I just got a text message. I wonder if it's somebody being like, is it, it's my hairdresser. He says, your beard is back. Hell yes. Hi, David. I really need a haircut, man. This is, I need a haircut, David, but you know who really needs a haircut is Henry. Henry hasn't had a haircut. You remember the last time Henry had a haircut, and it was like 9 months ago. So let's set something up, man. This is how I get stuff done. I know I'm so bad at replying to text messages in general. Like it's catastrophic. It's catastrophic how bad I am at replying to text messages. But maybe I can just do all of my business on live streams. I should say, I guess, for people who are new to the chat that if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm signing my name over and over again. I know lots of people see the title of the video and they think it says literally singing my name over and over again for 3 hours. That is not this endeavor. I am not literally singing my name over and over again for 3 hours. I'm signing my name over and over again for 3 hours. It's just, that's a verb you're probably not used to reading as much as you read singing. So yeah, so the reason that I'm doing this is I'm signing every copy of the first printing of my book, The Anthropocene Reviewed, which is based on a podcast of the same name that you can listen to at Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. It's just it's a book of essays where I review different facets of the human-centered planet on a 5-star scale. If you've listened to the podcast before, a lot of the essays are taken from the podcast. Most of them come from the podcast, but there are also 6 or 7 new ones. And the ones that are from the podcast, many of them have been extensively revised, updated. I've learned so much about people. I've learned so much from the people who listen to the podcast, like stuff that I was wrong about or stuff that I failed to see that I've been able to add to the book, which has been a lot of fun to do, but then also just adding new thoughts I've had about these same subjects. And then writing something for print, is inherently different than writing it for audio. And so that's also been an interesting part of the rewriting experience. But a lot of the essays are from the podcast. Some of the essays are new. Some of them are almost identical to how they appeared. Not identical. Like some of them are almost identical to how they appeared in the podcast, and some of them are quite substantially rewritten. And I'm signing every copy of the first printing because, because I made a commitment to, is the short answer. And the way that it works, so I sign these sheets. Each time you see me move, that's one copy. I sign the sheet, I put it over here, then eventually I'll stack it. Actually, if you guys stay to if you stay till the end of the show, you're going to get to see the Electro Jogger, which is this amazing machine from 1963, American made, this 80-year-old or 60-year-old machine that takes these pages and it jogs them so that they line up very carefully, and then I can stack them back into the boxes from which they came. Those are the boxes back there. There's about 155,000 sheets there. There's about 4,000 sheets there. There's probably like, I don't know, 12 to 1,300 here. I'll electro jog them, put them back in the boxes, seal up the boxes, and then I send them to Pennsylvania. Not randomly, but because that's where the books are printed. And then at the printer, it's an amazing technology that they have that allows them to, these are called tip-in sheets, and it allows them to tip in these sheets one at a time as they are binding the books. So as the book is getting made, they tip in a sheet, and it goes in right after or before, I can't remember, either right after or before the end paper. And yeah, so that's going to be how. So every copy of the US and Canadian edition should be signed. There's always a possibility that a few of them probably won't be, not because of any fault of the printer, but because of some fault of me. So every time I pick up a sheet, I have to real quickly do this to make sure that it's only one piece of paper, because it's really easy to pick up two pieces of paper at once. And then if you pick up two pieces of paper at once and you put them down, one of those sheets is not signed and never will be, and someone is going to be disappointed. And so I have to think, I try to be very intentional about remembering to check that this feels like just one sheet. But I'm sure that over the course of 500 hours of doing this, I'm going to miss some. And so there will probably be a few that are unsigned, but only a few. Anyway, that probably discourages you from pre-ordering the book, which is not my intention. But yeah, it's available for pre-order now. It comes out May 18th. And because it comes out May 18th, there's a certain measure of pressure, because they got to print the books, before they send them to you, and before they send them out to bookstores and stuff. And that logistical challenge of getting this, getting the books from the printer in Pennsylvania to lots of different places around the US and Canada is a significant challenge, and it takes a fair amount of time. And so I got to go fast. I have to do like 4,000. I mean, in a perfect world, I would do 5,000 a day every day for the next, 32 days. Realistically, that's really hard because it's hard to sign for 10 hours a day. I also have another job. In some ways, I have a couple other jobs, and Project Frossum's in the middle of it, etc. So, it's not going to be an easy or straightforward challenge, but it is kind of fun, and it does give me something to do in quarantine. And I know that quarantine is not the proper term for talking about whatever this is, but it's like a shorthand that we all use, and it's fine. Language changes. Here we go. All right. I'm gonna, this is a significant moment because this, actually, I'm gonna try to just make it to the end of this pen. This is what I'm gonna try to do. I'm gonna make it to the end of this pen. I'm gonna stack these 3 stacks on the ground so that I have a little bit more working room, and then I'm just gonna shut up. Y'all don't need me to talk. But if anybody comes into the chat and asks, like, what's he signing? Can somebody tell them? And, that'd be great. I would appreciate that. Oof, that was terrible. See, like my least favorite thing is like that, where like the second mark slopes too far down. It looks almost like it almost looks like a bad ramp in Excite Bike, the old NES game. Anytime I get a new stack, I think because like the angle has changed, I'm just never quite on my game at first. I'm gonna try to make it to the end of this pen though before I do the rest of the stack, before I stack on the ground and start every. Maybe I'll listen to a podcast or something. Is that a text message? No, it's just phantom wrist pain. The other thing people ask is if it hurts. I mean, it hurts when I'm done, you know, it hurts at the end of the day, but I just ice it and it's fine. It's like less uncomfortable than, it's not bad. It used to hurt a lot back in 2011 when I did this, but that was before I learned how to hold a marker. Like somehow I made it through third grade handwriting class and everything else in human life without ever really understanding how to hold a pen. And then I had a physical therapist teach me how to hold a pen. And since then we've been golden. I do have a partially torn ligament in my hand. It's probably not related to signing, but it does hurt. But there's not much you can do for it. I'm supposed to tape my fingers together when I'm not signing, which I like mostly do. Now that was definitely a text message, right? I mean, what's going on with my? I don't know. Oof. All right, that one was so bad it makes me think that I need to like take a little break to like look at this piece of work. I mean, hopefully I saved it with the spiral, but like you can, there's a jitteriness to the line that's not okay. So we just gotta take a breath, do some stacking. So again, I don't have to like stack these very carefully because I've got the Electro Jogger, but you know, I want to stack them a little bit just so they don't fall over. Okay. So if I can do that again, if I can do that many by, I don't know, 12:30, I should be in good shape. The other thing I'm going to do is take my wallet out of my pocket because it's a little bit uncomfortable. And then I'm going to switch pens because even though that pen isn't totally cooked, you know, one of the great luxuries that I can give myself in this process is starting with a new pen whenever I want. And so why not? All right, I'm going to listen to a podcast, but I was going to say I'll be here, which I will. I'll be here. Again, don't feel obligated to stay. Oh no, is it the same problem I was having before? So weird. Why does it only happen when I live stream? Yeah. think I'm going to try to turn off the Bluetooth on the computer. Let's see. I think I'm just going to like turn off Bluetooth. See if that works. Great. Let's see if that works. It worked. You know, it's funny. I make podcasts as a big part of my job, and so you would think that I'd be understanding of ads and why they're necessary, but oh my God, they're so annoying. Oh my God, so many ads. There we go. Oh, it's a lot better already. mean, that I don't have a problem. Like I said, I understand the necessity of podcast ads, but how many minutes were between those ads? Like 4? And I know that I make a 19-minute podcast that has an ad break, but goodness gracious, there's a lot of. I mean, I'm so conflicted in general about an advertising funded mediascape. Maybe that's what this is about deep down. But anyway, let's just go back to signing. Ad break. Two ads. So I just listened to another episode of The Apology Line. I like the parts that focus on the 1980s art scene a lot more than I like the parts that focus on serial murder. This is my I guess that's the nature of 20 podcasts these days, is that a lot of the popular ones involve crime, but yeah, it's interesting. It's a cool glimpse into what was a very successful art project in the early 1980s that I don't know much about. The only thing I knew about it was that it was like a sensation at this New Museum's show in 1981, where you could walk into a telephone booth and hear people who'd called this line to apologize for, all kinds of things that they'd done. And in a lot of cases, in the most interesting cases, I think, like, to try to puzzle through whether they needed to apologize. I still love those, like quasi-anonymous phone lines. Like, there's one called "Call Me Ishmael" where you can call and talk about a book you read, and they just published a book of a collection of people's calls and recommendations that I thought was really good and interesting. But yeah, it's a great thing about this particular project. It allows me plenty of time to read via audiobook or listen to podcasts and all that kind of thing. My shoulder is getting a little tired, but time is up. Yeah, I get a break in an hour. Okay, I'm going to check the chat in a minute just to make sure that everything's working, and also because my shoulder hurts and I want to reposition it slightly. So let me know if you have any questions or whatever, or if there's anything going wrong that I need to be aware of. Okay, we'll make this the last one for now. Ow. All right. Stack these up. Bada boom, bada bang. Is that going to work? Yeah, that works. John, the house is on fire. Nothing is working. Y'all dad is coming, please hide. Okay, all right. Okay. Great. Okay, great. I'm glad everything is working. Or seems to be working. And I like the idea that y'all are having a conversation that's completely separate from me. That makes me happy. Oh, which one of these pens is the pen? That's why I throw pens into the graveyard of pens instead of putting them there. somebody asked what my favorite sycamore tree is in Indianapolis. There's a sycamore tree not too far from my house, actually. And like when we first moved into our house, this, like periodically people will ask to, like people I know peripherally will ask to meet me, and usually they want advice on, writing or whatever or something. And I'm happy to do it, but it can be a bit uncomfortable at times, I guess. Anyway, this a few years ago, this like 90-year-old man sent me an email, and he said that he had lived in the neighborhood. He didn't anymore, but that he had lived in the neighborhood and that he would like to meet me. And I was like, all right, here we go. So I met up with this guy, and I thought he was, I didn't know what it was going to be about, but I figured it was going to be about, some sort of transactional relationship. And he said, would you mind going for a walk? And I said, I'd be happy to go for a walk. So we went for a slow walk around the neighborhood and everything. And at last we came to a sycamore tree, huge sycamore tree. I actually have an aerial photograph from 1930 in which you can see this sycamore tree. And even 90 years ago, it was a huge sycamore tree. And the guy says, this is Zeus. And I said, this is Zeus? And he said, yes, this sycamore tree is Zeus. And I wanted you to know that. And that was the reason for the meeting. And that is my favorite sycamore tree. Zeus, the sycamore tree. It was the best such meeting of my life, and like by a very wide margin. So yeah, that's my favorite sycamore tree. A few other people asked like how things are going or whatever. Things are going fine. I mean, there is we received a question at Dear Hank and John recently that was like, how do you deal with the Groundhog Day like repetition of life in the midst of a pandemic? And I thought that was a very good description of it. That you wake up every morning at the same time and you do the same things in the same place. And definitely, a big part of, it's challenging. Like I do remember before the pandemic, how much I did not like leaving my home and how much I didn't like forging new neural pathways by doing different things. But it's also really good for us, right? Like there's this idea that anything that causes any level of stress is bad. And I think that's an oversimplification. Like we have to challenge ourselves. We have to push ourselves. And there's a line between, what's a healthy, good, productive way of doing that and what's just like too much. Or at least like too much right now. And right now, for somebody like me, who my default state would be to be inside anyway by myself, I think the big risk for me is that it's going to be hard to come out of this cocoon. But I'm doing all right. I don't have a like a lot of people I know who have OCD, and especially OCD related to contamination or germs, like I don't have a great brain for a pandemic, but we are able to, we're really lucky to be safe and to be able to isolate. So yeah, we're doing fine. It's a little bit it's a little bit repetitious. I have found that there are things that I can still do to like, how you just like when you do something that's unusual or new, like travel or meet someone for the first time, like you form a memory of that in a way you don't form a memory of like doing the same crap every day. I have found ways to try to do that still. Like I really enjoy going to virtual artist lectures. Like artists, like the big New York galleries are still putting on shows, and obviously no one to very few people can go to those shows, but they still often have the artists come in and like give a talk from the gallery. Like there's this artist I love named Nina Kechandorian, who just made a great has a great new show of art about this book that she's been obsessed with for 45 years called Survive the Savage Sea. And she made a series of artworks in response to this family's 40 days of surviving after their sailboat was destroyed by orcas. And the art is really interesting and good, and her presentation was just wonderful. And that was a way to like forge a memory, like forge a new thing in my day while still staying safe and everything. So I'm trying to do little things like that. The other nice thing about that is that you can kind of like work in the background or doodle in the background because you're not actually a participant. It's not like going to a Zoom meeting where you are expected to participate. Like you can sort of zone in and out as you choose, which I dig. Yeah, and the kids are fine. This sucks for them. I think this is a, I think this is really hard, but it will end. We will get through it. And it's critical to remember that it will end. It really will. It often feels like it won't, but far worse pandemics have ended with far less human knowledge. Like the Black Death ended. This will definitely end. So it'll be different on the other side of it, but there will be a time when we're like, man, that heat of the pandemic was really weird. Sure, I'm glad that's over. And hopefully it'll end. Like obviously I'd like things to be back to normal as soon as possible, but mostly I want to see vulnerable people get vaccinated. I want to see older people get vaccinated, teachers, people who work in grocery stores, people, pharmacy techs. Like we've got to get the people who are, frequently exposed to this illness vaccinated quickly. So that's most of what I think about. I have not gotten vaccinated. I saw somebody ask that. I'm not. I feel pretty strongly about not jumping the line. That said, when it does become possible, I'm gonna relish that day. Okay. This was not the pen. Either this was not the pen or the pen has died. That's where you should have been. The whole time is in the graveyard of broken pens. Now, let's see what the situation is with this guy. Medium to not great. Maybe I'll get like 100 signatures out of this pen. Maybe. maybe. Since I learned the term feathering, which I don't even know if that's the right term or if somebody just told me that in comments, but I like it. This pen is, oh no, it's not going to make it 100. It might make it 10. There's some feathering, guys. There's some, that's unacceptable. That's going to hurt somebody's feelings. They're going to get the signature and they're going to be like, he could have started with a new pen and he chose not to. But then they'll be like, oh, but at least he did a spiral. So that made things a little bit better. But see, look at the, I'm going to go back to listening to a podcast after this, but I just, you can see how like the line gets so thin in the middle there. Like it just gets too thin. So we've got to say goodbye to that pen. All right. If I crush the next, what time is it? If I crush the next 30 to 45 minutes, then I'm going to be in a position where I can use the electro jogger. Oh, I have received a message from Rosianna that I'm verified on TikTok. So that's a development. I don't know. I'm just happy that my account isn't going to get deleted for impersonation. That's the critical thing. Oy, oy. All right. Okay. But hooray, thank you. I'm going to say thank you. Huh. I wrote huzzah, but it auto-corrected to buzzard, which would have been a weird thing to say. Like, how weird would it have been to respond to that text message with buzzard, thank you. Buzzard. I don't know why I find that so funny. All right, time to listen to 76 ads for 4 minutes of content. All right. Is that an ad or is that just a weird beginning? Oh, it's a weird beginning. Okay, great. It's getting cold and dark, apparently. Oh, I love a new pen. Man, I'm learning a lot about at-home hair therapy. The music is really good, at least. That's an 80s beat right there. Ugh. Ooh, I'm finding everybody in this podcast increasingly unlikable and kind of horrifying. I don't know if gay. Nope, I'm out. That was enough. Okay. Yeah, this is the problem with true crime podcasts, right? They get crimey, too crimey for me. If anyone has podcast recommendations, let me know. I've got 200, 305 hours of listening time in front of me. So if anyone has a good, high quality, I like nonfiction podcasts. I love a limited series so that I can feel a story finish. I thought the third season, my favorite podcast of all time, is the third season of Serial. If that's helpful. Which is about crime, but is not ghoulish, and is more about the relationship between crime and justice, or the system of justice that gets enforced upon people. Yeah. And I like when I'm doing this, I like a limited series that tells a single story well. But in general, like I listen to a lot of different podcasts, but I really like 99% Invisible, recent series on homelessness. I think is just brilliant, really, really brilliant. I love Radiolab. I've loved Radiolab for a long, long time. I've loved This American Life since I was a kid, or since I was a kid, since I was a teenager, anyway. Yeah, I always loved radio, and I wanted to, in a lot of ways, one of the dreams I had about writing was about writing for the radio, like Jonathan Goldstein did for Starley Kine, did for This American Life. And Starley Kine, I still love Jonathan Goldstein's podcast, Heavyweight. It's one of my favorite podcasts. Starley Kine makes a great podcast with David Rees and John Kimball called Election Profit Makers, where they discuss betting on political outcomes through this website PredictIt, but mostly it's just a podcast for them to talk about the stuff that interests them, and it's great. But yeah, that was always like one of my big dreams, and in a way, like it came true in the most unexpected way, of getting to make a podcast with WNYC, who where I had immense respect for the producer there, Jenny Lawton, who I've known for half my life, and who also has been a producer on many of my favorite shows, from Nancy to this great series about the Supreme Court called More Perfect. She's just an amazing producer, and I got to work with Joe Plord, an amazing technical director, and to have the episode scored by Hannes Brown was like a dream come true. So in a lot of ways, the Anthropocene Reviewed was my way of like being able to do that. It was really a hugely creatively fulfilling project. And so probably the most outside of Vlogbrothers, the most fulfilling thing that I've been able to work on. Like, it was just pure joy. not to say that like it's not also a lot of work. Like writing the essays is a lot of work, and sometimes I would feel a lot of deadline pressure and get stressed out. But working with Stan and Rosianna on our side and that team is just like a great, super fun collaboration. So pretty special thing. Not something that you get to have often, even if you're really lucky. And now it's going to be a book. So one of the questions I saw earlier was somebody asking what my favorite essay is in the book, and I don't know. I mean, I go back in the nature of my relationship with my writing is that I don't like each of them in their own special way. I guess I would say. There's something that isn't working for me in all of them. The Auld Lang Syne one is probably the one that I feel the closest to personally, where it's came closest to saying what I wanted to say about my friend and those years at the very start of my career and adult life, which were so overwhelming and baffling, and how lovely it was to have a mentor like Amy, and I also had other mentors like Eileen Cooper, just to help me get through those, help me get through that hard time. And I don't know, it's the first time I'd ever written about the Anthropocene Reviewed is the first time I've ever written about what I think of as a really, really important time of life. Those years of new adulthood or early adulthood or whatever, when you're, becoming responsible for all this new stuff, for bills and for, and you're trying to find work, and you're trying to build, in a lot of cases, you're trying to build new foundational relationships, or, in my case, I didn't have a lot of foundational relationships at the time. And I certainly didn't feel like I had many foundational relationships I could count on, that were going to be, that felt stable, until I moved in with my friends Katie and Hassan and Shannon when I was about 24, maybe 25. So those first 2 or 3 years of, not, you have no idea. There's so much possibility, in the sense that you could date anyone, you could live with anyone, you could be friends with anyone, you could have any job. But also, like it was completely overwhelming to be pushed and all, like to not have any idea like which one of these possible lives I would end up living, and I really wasn't able to enjoy much about those years until I made those, moved in with Katie and Hassan and Shannon, and realized that like, oh, this is going to be like, we are going to be each other's family for a while. And then I met Sarah, and Sarah became part of our family, and then eventually the driving force behind the breakup of our household, because I had to move to New York with Sarah. But yeah, those, like, writing about those early days, which I do in the review of CNN, and I do in a little bit in Auld Lang Syne, and I do in a few of the other essays, was really interesting for me, because it allowed me to go back to a really difficult time in my life with the safety of not being there anymore, right? Like, I think there's a line somewhere in the book about how some things only feel survivable once you've survived them. And once you have, I mean, this isn't true in my experience anyway for like the real intense, profound traumas, but like once you've survived a difficult time that felt really overwhelming and scary, like you can go back to it and you can look at it differently. And yeah. Or I guess I should not talk about it in generalities and just say that I can with that particular time. That you know, I had a breakdown. I had to move home. I was, you know, very low functioning, as one doctor wrote in my in my chart. Like she left the room with my chart open, and I looked at my chart, and the chart described me as a low functioning young adult, which was fair enough. Anyway, like I can go back to that. Like it was really, really difficult, and it was very, it was profoundly precarious for a while, and I guess I've always been sort of scared to write about that time because I didn't want to, you know, I just didn't want to go back there. But writing about it in the context of these essays, perhaps because I'm writing about other things, you know, like I'm not just writing about this, you know, this period of major depression that I experienced. I'm also writing about this movie called Harvey. I'm not just writing about the intense love that I shared with my roommates in those years. I'm also writing about CNN. I'm not just writing about Amy. I'm writing about this New Year's Eve song. So maybe that's part of why it's possible to go back to it and try to think about it with clarity. But when I think about my favorite essays, I guess I think about the ones where I feel like I'm able to try to find some real, true, deep place where my little experience of the world meets the big forces that are shifting and changing us and the world we share. You know, like CNN is a hugely important force in the history of information distribution, not least because it led to other 24-hour news channels, you know, with increasingly with increasing ideological rigidity at their core values. But also, like, CNN was a thing that Hassan and Katie and Shannon and I watched in 2003. Harvey is a great movie. It won some Academy Awards. The play version won a Pulitzer Prize. It's worthy of critical attention, but also it sort of saved my life, or at least it didn't really save my life, right? Like, but in the story I tell myself of my life, it saved my life, or it helped save my life. I mean, I think the people who should probably get the most credit are my parents, but I think Harvey gets a little bit of credit as well. Probably also my psychiatrist, the psychiatric group therapy crap, the medicine, all that gets a lot of credit. But, like, you know, it's fun for me, or like interesting for me, to tell the story of it through the lens of Harvey, because I think when I watched Harvey, when I was so sick, I didn't know what I loved about it. It was only later that I realized, like, oh, this is a movie about somebody who has a severe mental illness and who it would be easy to write off as useless to society, which is very much how I felt back then, but who in fact is able to be profoundly helpful and to have a kind of to have a kind of wonderful life in all kinds of ways that society is terrible at measuring. And that felt like hope to me that wasn't bullshit, which is what I needed. You know, like it's very easy to, like when you're unwell, you're constantly provided with hope that is bullshit. Problem is that you know, right? Like you know it's bullshit. So like it isn't very helpful, you know? And looking back at Harvey and also at other things that happened to me at the same time in my life, I realized like, oh, what really was useful to me was hearing people articulate hope to me that wasn't bullshit, that wasn't Pollyanna-ish, that wasn't overly optimistic, that didn't ignore, you know, the profound suffering and injustice in the world. So those, I think, if I was able to articulate any of that in the book, like those are my favorite essays, probably. Gosh, this is a lot of signing. It just keeps happening. But you know, if I just push through for like 10 or 15 more minutes, I can use the electro jogger, and like I don't want to overplay it, but there is no joy on this broken earth as great as using and seeing in action the electro jogger. So get excited if you're going to be here in 15 minutes, because it's going to be as good or better than you think it's going to be so good. My knee is a little, my like hip hurts from having crossed my legs for the last 2.5 hours. So I'm going to try this position, but it doesn't feel right. Like it feels like my spine is sort of in a C shape. I mean, the position that I think I would find most comfortable right now is also like, it's like this, but I worry that looks weird. I guess it doesn't look that weird. Oh, that feels so good. Oh, that's such a good hip stretch. Like I sign slower this way, but it's so much more comfortable. Okay, it's time to electro jog. It's happening. It's going to happen now. Everybody, again, I don't want to overhype it, but get extremely excited. Are there even people still here? I don't even know. Oh my God, there are 2,000 of you still here. That's incredible. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around. Let's get up nice and let's get a good view. There she is in all of her beauty, the electro jog. Here, I'm going to turn the light around too, so that we can really add to the whole experience. Unless the light is extremely caught up in itself. Oh God, it's a catastrophe. Can I spin the light this way? Oh, oh God. Oh no. Okay, hold on. Now we have like a proper emergency. Okay, I gotta untangle the light. But the light weighs like 70 pounds, so that's a significant amount of force. Look at that. There we go. All eyes on the electro jog. I'm going to get you up nice and close so that you can really see this magician at work. All right, here she is. So this was made by the Whirlpool Corporation LaPorte division in wherever LaPorte is, and it was given to me. It's called the Electro Jog Paper Jogger, and it is just an absolute work of art. So I'm going to get all the sheets I've signed so far today, and I'm going to put them up here, all in a big. These are the little pieces of foam that styrofoam that I have to use. So then you put this is the box that will go to Pennsylvania. And I got to get all the sheets from today. Okay, here we go. This is all today's sheets. So first you have to check to make sure that they're all signed, and that they're all signed in the right direction. So the little blue, that has to be at the bottom. So I have to make sure there's no blue there, which there isn't. And then I go through them and I'm like, hooterty, hooterty, hooterty. Those all look approximately like my signatures. Then I put them in here. And then I hit this. Let me get you really close so that you can really see the magic. All right, ready? And then I hit this button. Then it jogs. It jogs and jogs and jogs. And then look at this. Look at this. Look at that. Just a work of art. That's manufacturing at its absolute finest, in my opinion. Just perfection. So then I put them in there, and because they're also perfectly aligned, it's easy to fit them in there. And then I just keep doing this. Make sure that I sign them all. Hoobity hoobity. There's no blue on top. And then I electro jog. Boom, perfection. Absolute perfection from a 60-year-old machine. Just incredible. Now, the hardest part is actually me doing my job of getting them in there. So then once I have like a couple of stacks in the box, then I have to use these pieces of styrofoam to these little styrofoam things are ways of making sure that the paper doesn't move. And they have a very gross sound to them when they touch each other. Which is extremely upsetting to me, but there's also nothing I can do about it. It's one of those things that you have to live with, like so much in this world. All right, then we put a few more of these little horrifying things between the little pieces, between the stacks. And this is where the noise can get very bad. I apologize to anyone who has the same noise sensitivities that I do. And then you just keep doing it. So look, we have more. Here's more pages. Look how this is hopeless. How could this situation ever be resolved? What will we? Oh, we're just going to electro jog it. and just perfection. It's a continual astonishment to me that nothing in my life works as well as the Electrojog does, right? Like this machine is it's perfect. Perfection again. It gets achieved over and over and over again. It's incredible. I love this machine so much. If it ever breaks, I will be devastated. I do see them for sale on eBay sometimes, and I think, should I buy a second Electrojog? And then I think, no, because if I bought a second Electrojog, I would be denying some soul out there the joy of owning Electrojog, and that wouldn't be right. So you check, make sure they're all signed. No glue on the top. All right, we're going to see how close we get to a full box. A really full box is about 3,200. Let's check again. They're all signed. There's no glue on the top. I don't think that, so hopefully I have a little more than 3,200. Now, the only thing is that if you overfill the Electrojogger, occasionally it will be a little slower, and I kind of overfilled it that time, but that's on me. That's not on the Electrojogger, right? Like, the Electrojogger did nothing wrong. I was the problem. Oh, I didn't check. I need a checklist. Okay. They're all signed. There's blue on the bottom. Great. Again, absolute perfection. It delivers 100% of the time. This is going to be the last one in this box. Checkity, no glue on the top. Throw it in there. And Electrojog. Again, perfection, because it's the most wonderful machine in the world. And as you can see, it gets a little jiggly after it finishes, which I also find very amusing. So that's nice. It turns out I do have room for these last few, I think. All signed. Yep, blue on the bottom. Okay. There we go. And there we go. Maybe that's a little too many. So I'll save those for the next box. Still a little too many. So the box closes, which is what we need the box to do. And then we take the box over here. So I have a stack of 30 boxes in the other room, and then the stack that I'm building now is over here. Oh, gotta not mess the painting up. So there you go. That's the Electrojogger at work. Isn't it just an extraordinary technology? I agree. Oh man. D-Gump missed the jogger. Sorry, I don't have any more Electrojog at the moment. There will always be another one. Yeah. Oh, did you guys get to see the pen graveyard? Yeah. All right. It's great to talk with you all. Thank you for being here. for my weird 3-hour live stream. Maybe I'll just do this every Thursday until this is over. So you'll see plenty of more times to see the Electro Jogger. DFTBA, thanks again for being here with us.